Yeah, I grew up in Rhodesia before we had independence. Went through a kind of a nice phase for about 10 years, and then it all turned to custard. And now it's even worse. We thought after Mugabe is gone, the political situation will change, but it hasn't.
Right.
So yeah, one of the people on the call today is Ruth. Ruth Dengwani is based in Harare in Zimbabwe.
Right. Okay.
So she's coming in on the call. She's my virtual assistant. She helps out with all of my clients. Yeah, so it's an interesting time we're in. We've got Lauren. Lauren, can you switch on your video and say hi? We're just catching up while we wait for everybody else to come on the call.
How many are you expecting today?
I'm expecting 23 people registered. And normally we get about 10% of the registrations. Some people will register and not show up and ask for the replay. Hi, nice to meet you. Unmute yourself, say something so we can get to know who you are and where you're based at the moment.
Hi, love. It's Lorraine, and I'm based in Adelaide. As you can see, I've been doing some gardening.
Oh, good for you. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll just pop myself back on mute and screen off for now, and I'll see how much more I can get.
Get done. Okay, no, that's fine. That's awesome. Yes, I do these webinars every
Done
other
before
day.
the light goes down.
Okay, go for it. And I like the smaller intimate groups because we really get to connect, but we'll start dead on 8 and I'll record everything. I like to respect people who show up on time. Whether I have 1 person or 10 people, we'll start exactly at 8 o'clock and they can always watch the recording afterwards.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about your idea worth spreading. What is inspiring you to get on the TED platform?
For a start, I've actually have been in education.
Okay.
So I have given public lectures to my own Greek background groups, both here and in the US. I'm a freelance writer, author, historian, academic.
Okay.
And last year the hallmark of my speech was I gave a speech for a special day in our history, in the presence of the Japanese Consul General here in Melbourne.
All right. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. And you have it recorded. How was that received?
Someone recorded it, but they never sent me the actual the video. And I need to chase it up. But no, it went well. It went well, and I am a confident person, and I can speak without any problems. I mean, I've gone into classrooms without any set notes,
right?
Because I had no idea what the hell I was going to teach, and I just come up with the what, why, and how questions, and it flies from that.
Oh, I love it. So you'll find this process really easy.
Okay.
Let's say welcome to Philippa. Philippa, you're coming in from Cape Town, South Africa. Another very good friend of mine. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Gertrude. Hi, everybody.
Hello, Philippa.
Hi.
Lovely to see you on the call. How are things in South Africa? Your numbers are going up. COVID-19
numbers are going up. Cape Town was the epicenter. Now it's moved to Johannesburg. Yeah, I'm tired of this, but anyway, we move on and we try and dream into this new world that we're living in. That's my latest decision. Just
stay positive.
Yes. Make peace with it and say, how do we work with this reality? Because this is what we've got. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Just to let you know, ladies, I'm actually a fellow African as well.
You are? Where from?
I'm a Greek background, but my parents were born in Egypt, so I'm born in Cairo, Egypt.
Oh wow! Fantastic. We're all African at the end of the day, anyway.
Oh yes, long live Africa, Mother Africa. Oh yes,
Mother Africa. Lovely to know that. Okay, so we have Natsai. Natsai, you sound like you're also from Zimbabwe. Do you want to unmute, give us a video feed. We'll just say hi before we get started. It's just nice to know where everybody is. Where are you based, Natsai?
Hi, yes, I am from Zimbabwe. I live in Melbourne.
You're in Melbourne as well.
Yes.
You have quite a few people from Melbourne on the call. My daughter's in Melbourne.
Ah, lovely. Where's everyone? I kind of came in a bit late.
Philippa's in Cape Town. Terry is in Melbourne. Lauren is in Adelaide. So yeah, and then we have Nyron. Nyron, I know you were struggling in the beginning. You were on video. Do you want to just say hi to everybody? Say where you're based before I start? Unmute yourself if you can. Maybe not. Okay, so I was saying to Terry earlier, I respect people who show up on time. So we will get, oh, there she is. Hey, how are you? Where are you based?
Hi, I'm Nairan Tabi. I'm from Melbourne.
Melbourne again. Wonderful. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So excited for today. I was waiting just to meet you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so we're going to start, and anybody else who pops in can always watch the replay. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this amazing adventure that I'm going to take you on to explore the possibilities of becoming a TED speaker. So what if a year from now, your annual salary could be your monthly income, and you had access to thought leaders, men and women who are thinking on the same wavelength as you. And you look back and you wonder why you wasted so much time not doing the things that you needed to do to get you to be successful as a speaker and doing it full time. So during this webinar, I'm hoping that we can discuss a few issues to get you to that point. And I want to use all of my power to motivate you, inspire you, persuade you, influence you to come on board to realize the power of your personal story and getting on the TED platform. Thank you for showing up. I want you to participate as I go through the webinar by chatting in the chat. If I ask you to give me some feedback, just put your comments, your questions in the chat. If something comes up as a question, type it as we go. Don't wait until the end, otherwise you'll forget. Because what I normally do is I go back to these notes and I get back to people because we might not have time at the end. And if you've got a notepad, pen and paper, I recommend you write things down, because the lessons are reinforced when you just scribble a few notes. You will get this recording, yes, but to reinforce the learning, just take a few notes as we go. And let's turn off all distractions, cell phones, husbands, wives, children, dogs, cats, and please mute yourselves so that there's no background noise coming from your locations while I do the presentation. Awesome. So we'll get started. That's just a few housekeeping things. COVID-19 has presented humanity with a magical, magical opportunity. In Mandarin Chinese, the word crisis is written with two symbols. One symbol stands for danger, the other symbol stands for opportunity. And what is happening in the world right now is that COVID-19 has given us a gift. And there's going to be people who see the gift and run with it and become very, very successful in this time. There'll be people who don't see it and will just complain about what's going on and the frustration of being at home. But people are connecting so much more right now online than any other time in our human history because of the isolation, because of the lockdown. So there's a real opportunity for you to be able to share your idea. COVID has also given us the gift of time. Time to learn new things like you're on this call tonight. Time, again, to connect with random strangers on any social media platform. And Facebook ads are at an all-time low right now. And a lot of thought leaders are really capitalizing on the opportunity to use the social media platforms to promote webinars like mine, their workshops, presentations, and just to be visible and be known. So I want to share with you a process of how I became a 3-time TED speaker. I have been invited 5 times to speak on TED. The last 2 times were last year. One date fell on my daughter's wedding. The other one fell on my wedding. Weird coincidence. I had to let go of 2 opportunities. But you're here because you have a story to share. Or maybe you've developed a process, something that you've done in your life that you can teach someone else. You might have created a successful business and want to be a business coach or a mentor. I like working with change makers, people who want to change something in their environment. I love working with visionaries who want to build a better future for our children. My passion is for tribal leaders, people who want to create and identify their tribe and grow their tribe globally. And also social entrepreneurs. I'm a serial social entrepreneur. I create businesses to make money so I can give away money and make a difference in communities, focused mostly on women and children, mostly in Africa, but now my help has spread all over the world. In fact, in every location where I have an event or a conference, I make sure that we leave a social impact and make a difference in that space. So why should you bother getting on TED? TED changes everything in terms of your speaking career. When you get to speak on the TED platform, you're no longer speaking to 100 people in a room at a conference or a seminar or 1,000 people in a room. You're speaking to millions. It doesn't matter if you're invited to speak at a small event in your neighborhood and they have a small audience. Right now, I only have 7 people on this call, but I deliver my presentation as if I'm speaking to millions, because all of the videos that I produce go on YouTube. I get a lot of organic business, and I tag my presentations, how to get your first TED speaking opportunity. People are looking for these how-to methods. So everything I do, I curate all the videos. And Terry, when we were catching up a little bit earlier, you told me you did a presentation. Make sure that when you're going somewhere to do a speech, carry your phone, hand it to the person who's sitting in the front seats, go with a friend, ask them to record it, because a lot of times if you wait for the event organizer to give you the video, you might not even get it. It takes time to edit, and you want to get your presentation out as much as possible. But the main reason why you're doing this is to create your digital footprint online. And you want your digital footprint to be extremely impressive. So when TED organizers look at applicants, they will Google your name. They want to see who you are. They want to see you speaking somewhere. And you could have been invited to speak for free at a social networking club. Just carry your phone, capture every single presentation and post it online. And when you post it, make sure that you tag it with your name, with the theme of the presentation, depending on what it was you were talking about. Then people will find you organically using the keywords in Google when they're looking for speakers as well. Now, your digital footprint can also be created by the photographs that you take of yourself. So I just want you to do a little exercise. Go into Google right now and type in my name. Make sure you misspell the first name. It's not Gertrude, but Getrude Mache. See how many references there are in Google based on my name. Then click on Google Images and look at how many photographs of me are available online. Now, I've been speaking for the last 20 years, and it's been a very deliberate strategy that I've used to be found. When people are searching for someone using Google, Google can only see words. It cannot see pictures. So if you take a picture with your phone, random numbers generate the file name. Make sure you rename every photograph with your image with your name. That's how the search engines can find you. Can you all see how many photographs there are of me online? That's because if I'm invited to speak, the organizer asks me to send a photo, I change the file name before I give it to them. If I have a photograph and I'm doing a podcast with someone, I make sure that the photo I give them has got my name on it. That's all about creating that online visibility and a digital footprint that impresses people in terms of what you are up to in life. I love showing people with ideas how to repurpose their intellectual property, your intellectual ideas. You can write a book. Some of the people on this call have already written a book. If you're a speaker and you have a book, even if it is self-published, that book gives you credibility straight away. When I wrote my first book, it was amazing how people were bowing and scraping at my feet. It was so funny because it was just my life story. I was writing the book as a fundraiser to make money so I could send money to Zimbabwe. And it was really strange how people reacted. I started getting more speaking opportunities, but it also created an income for me because people would buy the book at the end of the presentation. And I'll share a little bit about you in terms of book sales and being a speaker as well. So you're obviously looking for a better way to operate your speaking business, and you're going to get more time and more money if you do it in a very strategic way. So let's get started. The mission is going to be tonight for me to take you through the TED Talk application process so that you can produce results. I will share with you my TED Talk application after this call so that you can model yours off mine. Every single TED website asks exactly the same questions. So you can go from one TED website to the other. The questions are the same. So they'll ask you the general things, of course, your name, your date of birth. They want to see your online presence, and this is part of what I was talking about. So make sure that you have a profile on Facebook that is active, not a stale one, because what people tend to do is if they go on your Facebook page, they want to see what you're posting regularly. And there's ways where you can post to all of your social media platforms. There's a platform called Hootsuite where you post once and it puts it on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. You don't have to go into each account to share that content. So make it easy for yourself. There are platforms that can help you share your content in one space. They want to see where you are on Instagram. They want to see your Twitter. They want to see who is following you. How many followers do you have? On YouTube, they want to see how many people have viewed your videos, because then that tells them people are interested in your content. You're an interesting person. Also share the links to your websites. Now, a lot of people have websites that are just online brochures. They look nice, but they don't drive any traffic to you. They don't bring people in. So you have to do your keyword research and make sure that you optimize the content on your website for the keywords that somebody will key in to find someone like you. When I was doing my research, I call myself an inspirational speaker. I don't like the word motivation, but I had to change the copy on my website to motivational speaker because millions of people look for motivational speakers. Inspirational speakers is a new term. So use both words. On your main page, your about page, say you're a motivational speaker. Google will find you that way more than you will be found using inspirational speaker. So that was an insight that I found when I started putting together my website. They'll ask you for photographs. So make sure that you have photos taken at every event. Again, it's not just photographs of you, a headshot, or you just standing somewhere. It's photos of you speaking. They want to see how you look like when you're on stage. And normally put all of those photos on a Google Drive and just share them the link. Give them as many photos as possible, because depending on how you look, they might think, okay, this is a nice, catchy photo. This will look good on our website. So don't just send them one photo, send them multiples. The next thing they'll ask for are your videos, your speaking videos. So how are you going to generate lots of speaking videos online? I started by speaking for Rotary clubs, Lions clubs, Probus clubs, any social networking clubs that need a guest speaker every week. If you go onto rotaryinternational.org right now, they meet in the morning, afternoon, and evening. You can put in your zip code and find 10 to 15 Rotary clubs in your location where you can pitch yourself as a speaker and use these platforms to practice, because your perfection comes with practice. You can't do it any other way. Your confidence is gained through practice as well. And right now, a lot of these clubs are looking for speakers online, so you can still do it from home. TED is actually having their TED events online as well. Make sure that you record the presentation, then send them the link. Next thing is your address, your phone number, your email. They want to know your industry or occupation. So make sure that whatever industry your talk is about, you highlight this in this application as well. They ask for a bio. Don't give them a very long-winded bio. I would recommend no more than 250 words. Be succinct and to the point. Your proposed idea is the next question they ask for. I'm currently working on a TED Talk that I want to kind of tie into COVID-19. Sometimes you have to make your presentation topical. So I talk about the same thing. I talk about the Ubuntu philosophy. And what I found is that I can explain Ubuntu from different perspectives. My first TED Talk was based about my life, my experiencing Ubuntu living in Africa. My next TED Talk in upstate New York was called Ubuntu 2.0. It's a philosophy that a lot of people don't know comes from Africa, because there is a piece of software, operating system called Ubuntu. So a lot of technical people, a lot of computer people think Ubuntu is just a technical term for this operating system, but the operating system is based on the philosophy. So when I wrote my book, it was deliberate because I knew there wasn't a lot of books written about Ubuntu. I wrapped my life story around the philosophy. And now I lecture in universities in social anthropology because Ubuntu is now being taught globally. A lot of the lecture positions that I'm getting right now during COVID-19 are from universities online. And I'm getting an average of from 2,000 euro to 5,000 euro for a 1-hour presentation. So your personal story can migrate from being a memoir to an academic text. And something fascinating happens when you're in that space, especially if you have a book. Because when you have a book, the universities will buy the book for the students in bulk. They don't just buy one copy. So seriously, if you do not have a book, make sure you start working on one. Just type in the chat who has a book. I know, Philippa, you've written a book. I know, Ruth, you're working on one. Nairon, have you got a book? And Lauren? Having a book really makes a difference in terms of everything you'll do as a speaker. Okay, so my proposed idea around COVID-19 and Ubuntu, I haven't found a catchy title yet, but in Ubuntu, we believe that humanity is one, that we are an organism. Ubuntu talks about the human race being one. And my grandmother used to describe Ubuntu, and she would say that if you cut your finger and you start to bleed, your white blood cells will rush to that point to heal it. In a week's time, you can't even see the scar. And that's how we should be responding to each other in the world. And what COVID-19 has done is that it has united humanity. We have one common enemy right now. Everybody is impacted. Everybody is affected by COVID-19. So the line I've come up with so far, I still need to make it shorter and catchy, is imagine for a moment if we could solve the world's problems like our blood heals wounds. And I'm talking on the premise that if humanity is an organism, we should be helping each other. The countries that have overcome COVID-19 should be helping the countries that haven't. So that's the angle that I'm going to come in with this new idea that I have to talk about the same subject. So why am I talking about the same subject? I'm actually writing a book on Ubuntu. And every single one of my TED Talks is a chapter in my next book. Again, because there's not a lot written about the philosophy. But what it also shows is that I'm not a one-horse pony. A lot of people have one focused idea. On their bio, they say, I talk about climate change and climate change alone. Now, if you're invited to, let's say, a property investors conference, and your subject is on climate change, how can you write a speech to property investors and be invited to speak on that platform? The same thing applies with TED. Most TED events have got a theme, and people apply to a TED event. They don't research what the theme is. They pitch the wrong idea. So if you can talk about your idea from different perspectives, then you're really showing that you're versatile. I have a business background. I've got an IT background. I'm now a philosopher, and I didn't plan it, but I can talk about the same subject from so many different perspectives. And that's what you need to do with your idea worth spreading. And when they research the speakers online, TED event organizers are looking to see, do you embody your idea? Are you talking about it constantly from different perspectives? You have to live it, you have to breathe it, you have to believe in it, you have to be passionate about your subject worth spreading. So I'm going to ask you each to type in the chat, what is your idea worth spreading? Just a few words. It could be a concept. You might not be very clear what the title of your TED Talk is going to be. I just want to get an essence of what is your idea worth spreading. Put that in the chat for me. This presentation is very interactive because what will happen is I'm going to share all of this with you, the chat messages as well. What happened on Tuesday, I was doing a presentation, and I think I had about 120 people on that call, and they did this exercise, and people actually got ideas from each other. You know, one person was writing about COVID-19 similar to me, and I was telling her that I don't know what my title is, and she put together a few key words that I thought, okay, that's an angle that I could use to incorporate in my speech as well, because the title is really important. Your TED Talk title is like a book title. It has to be catchy. It has to be different. It has to be unusual. It has to spark curiosity. So Philippa, your idea is the power of story. Fantastic. And you can use that in different perspectives, in business, in universities. I know you're lecturing at the University of Cape Town. That's nice. Lorraine, you said divine feminine connection. Wow, and narcissistic fire. Interesting. Very interesting. I like that. Michelle, welcome to the call. You've just joined us. Thank you for joining us there. Where are you based, Michelle? Just type that in the chat. You're in Brisbane. So welcome to the call. So you're writing the conduit to relieving suffering. Excellent. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, I've recorded the call, Michelle, so you can watch it from the beginning. So getting really clear what you are talking about. You have to create a 2-minute audition video that you share with your TED organizers. And when I coach people to get on TED, we first work on that 2-minute video first. That's what makes the first impression. And with a 2-minute audition video, they're looking for a number of things. They want you to encapsulate your idea in 2 minutes. It's like your elevator pitch. It means that if you were at an event and somebody told you who you are, what do you do, can you say that in just 2 minutes? They assess you based on that, because if you can't say it in 2 minutes, you can't say it in 5, you can't say it in 15 minutes. Does that make sense? So when I coach people, we start with 2 minutes, we go to 5, we go to 10, we go to 15, then we go to 18 minutes. And I do this because sometimes you could be at an event where you don't have a lot of time to share who you are, and you've got your speech in different chunks, but still communicating the essence of what that idea worth spreading is all about. Make sense? Excellent. So they want you to tell them, what is your proposed idea? Now, why is this idea important to you? And why are you passionate about it? So my answer to that is that I've always been drawn to solving problems and noticing what humanity needs on a larger scale. I then share that I grew up in Zimbabwe during the AIDS pandemic, and it affected me in a very, very big way. This is actually my second pandemic. And also the lifestyle of the people in the continent that I was born, how people are communal, people think about each other. They prioritize connection more than anything else. You know, in South Africa, when we greet, we say sabona. And sabona means I see you. And it's not the seeing of sight, it's an acknowledgement of the other person's humanity. So it's tied into our language, it's tied into our way of life. And my passion is to help bring this to the West. Because when I moved to London, I was 19 years old. I lived in a society for the first time where people did not look you in the eye. I'll be standing at a bus stop and I'll say good morning to random strangers and they will look through me like I was crazy. And I remember phoning my mom and telling her that I felt like I was disappearing. It was like I wasn't there. It's because in Africa, my very existence depended on the people around me. A smile from a stranger in a supermarket can make somebody's day. So in Africa, it starts with your family, your connections with your immediate family. It goes into your community. And then if you can do something to help somebody somewhere else in the world, you do that too. That's why I'm passionate about my subject. So what is it for you? What makes you want to wake up and talk about your subject and spread it around the world? The next question on the application is, how is this idea new? Is it a new idea? In my application, I said, no, I talk about an ancient African philosophy that has never been written down. It's a way of life. There's no literature. And I want to bring that to the mainstream. So if your idea is new, what is it about? This afternoon, I was coaching one of my clients, a young girl who came on board a few days ago. She's based here in New Zealand. She grew up in France, in a very impoverished part of France, and she became a scientist. So she's passionate about science, especially science for young girls. And she wants to start a business where she's going to create kits with seeds that children can start learning to grow vegetables so they can eat more vegetables, but learn science at the same time. Now, I live on TED. I breathe TED. I watch a TED talk first thing in the morning. I watch one in the evening. In between, during the day, I look for inspiration on TED. And I had watched a TED talk called Mushrooms Could Save the World or something like that. It was about two young guys who created a business growing mushrooms out of coffee grounds. And I shared that TED talk with her today, and she's literally got the blueprint to how she can create her business. She has a blueprint on how she can create her TED talk. So they say that success leaves clues. People who are successful will show you how. So don't try and reinvent the wheel. What you're trying to do, what you're trying to share, somebody has done something similar already. Rather start off from their starting point than reinventing the wheel. So if you're not already going on TED and watching videos, start doing it religiously, because there are some amazing minds on TED who can help you rethink your idea and take it in a different direction, or even expand it to be something much bigger than you thought it was going to be. Does that make sense? So I live, I breathe TED. I know so many TED Talks. It's crazy. I surprise myself sometimes. So how new is your idea? The next thing they'll ask is, what is your proposed title for your presentation. Right now, I just have imagine for a moment if we could solve the world's problems like our blood heals wounds. If anybody there has an idea for me or a different way I could phrase it, I know it's too wordy. It's too long-winded. I need to shrink it down and tighten it. And I will share with you as well in the follow-up call, my 2-minute audition video that I recorded pitching myself to TED. So now I'm trying to wrap it around COVID-19 so it's topical and see where I go from there. It actually heightens my chances on getting on TED because everybody's talking about COVID-19 from different perspectives. All right, next question on the TED application. They then ask you to outline your talk. They want you to know what you're going to say in the beginning, in the middle, in the end. Now, every story, I'm going to share my screen, has an arch to it. Every story has to have a beginning, it has to have a middle, it has to have an end. The beginning is crucial. The way you start speaking is absolutely imperative because you only have 30 seconds to make an impression on people. 30 seconds. They say you have to give people a visual bite and a sound bite. The visual bite is how you look. Now, it's about 8:30 in the evening here. I rested before this presentation so I could have a bit of energy because I've been working all day. I had a shower, put on my makeup. I'm talking to you as if I'm presenting in a lecture theater. My colors, I wear very vibrant colors. I always wear something African on my person. So you have to think about your branding. How are you going to show up as a speaker online, at events? What's going to make you stand out? For me, I take people through a personal branding workshop. It starts off with finding the 3 words that best describe you. Ask your family, your friends, your colleagues, your clients. My 3 words came from a testimonial that I got from one of my clients. She said something like, Gertrude is a vibrant bundle of African energy. I pulled out the words African first. So I wear my traditional African clothes when I speak. It's part of my branding. It's very deliberate. I didn't want people to think that I was African American or Caribbean or someone of African descent from somewhere. When you look at the pictures, you know I'm African. That's very important for me for a number of reasons. 1, I've got this beautiful chocolate brown skin. I can't run away from it. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of where I'm from. 2, I live in New Zealand. How many African speakers are there in New Zealand? The reason why I get all these TED Talks is because there's nobody else like me doing this in New Zealand, in Australia. So I have an edge if I show up as being clearly African. Does that make sense? The next word I took out of this testimonial was vibrant. You will never see me wearing black unless I'm going to a funeral. I'm actually wearing black right now because I'm in mourning. I've just lost my mom, but I splashed it with a bit of red. So vibrancy is part of my brand. Because you're branding yourself, you are no longer you. You are a product. You are a Nike. You are a Coca-Cola. You are an Instagram. How are you going to show up in the world full of speakers and be different? If I said to you Coca-Cola and you closed your eyes, what colors come to mind? Just put that in the chat. Red and brown. What other colors? White. Correct. So it's red, black, brown, white. If I was to ask you about Nike, how have they branded themselves? It's the tick. So they've used a symbol. So when you come to branding who you are, you can use colors, you can use symbols There's so many elements you can use to infuse into your branding so you stand out. The last word I used for my branding was the word energy. I'm a very energetic speaker. I'm a very energetic person. I'm not an in-the-box type of person. So I reflect that by the fonts that I use to write my name on my book covers. The fonts that I use for my marketing material are very artistic. So if you're a conservative person, you have a conservative font. Just a font can say so much about a person. So really think clearly, how am I showing up? What is my personal branding? So that's really important as well when you're not just speaking on the TED platform, when you're going to organizations and pitching yourself in organizations as well. So the art of a story, let's just go back to that, and I will share my screen and show you the things you need to think about when you're putting together your story. So every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's got an act 1, act 2, act 3. In the beginning, you are setting up what you're going to talk about. In the middle, it's how you went on this journey to find this idea. And in the end is the resolution. The resolution is pivotal. A lot of people give presentations and don't resolve what they are pitching as an idea. They don't give people steps to take so they can take the idea home and implement it. Does that make sense? So people need a call to action when they come to a TED event. They're coming for inspiration. They're coming to find out, how can I take this to the next step? When I did my first TED Talk, so if you have time, watch all 3 of my TED Talks. The first one was just me telling my personal story. I didn't have a coach. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just went in and did what I did. The second one, I had a TED coach, and it's called Ubuntu 2.0. We used the IT jargon because Ubuntu is an operating system. And I entitled it Ubuntu 2.0 Humanity's Operating System. So I get a lot of geeks who look for Ubuntu on YouTube. They're looking for videos about the software. They find me and they get to understand that Ubuntu is more than just an operating system. And I gave people a call to action at the end on how to implement this new operating system. I said to them, put your family first. Put your community next. If you have something to spare, do something somewhere else in the world. That's how you implement this operating system. So people need a call to action at the end. So when you're mapping out your story, you've got 5 points you need to think about. I said the beginning, the middle, and the end, but you also have a plot point 1 and a plot point 2. So it's like writing a movie. If you're watching a movie and there's several episodes of a movie, what happens to take us from act 1 to act 2? There's got to be a change, something pivotal that happens in your story that transitions you to the next point. And there has to be something that happens at the end of act 2 that takes you to act 3. If you can plot out those 5 points before you start writing, you'll write a very effective presentation. I also want you guys to go on TED.com and look for this TED Talk. It's called The Secret Structure of Great Talks. There is a researcher who mapped out the best presentations in the world: Martin Luther King, JFK, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi. There is an art to writing the best speeches. And she mapped it out like a graph that goes up and down, up, across, down, across, up, across, down, across. It's an amazing video. And if you can do that in your speech and take people on an emotional roller coaster ride, you have to get people to laugh. You have to make people cry if your story is sad. You have to get them to feel some emotion so they get attached to your idea worth spreading. Unless you get them to feel something, you can't transfer it. I call this humanity's language. I'm a very emotional speaker, and I get a lot of men who come to my presentations and talks, and they say, Gertrude, thank you so much. I never cry, but you really got to me. I could really feel who you are and what you're about. And that's because I speak from here. I speak from the heart. And that's the next thing I want to share with you. I do what's called heart coaching. I stumbled across this throughout my career, but let me tell you a little bit about what got me to that point. So when I got to New Zealand, I wrote this book. I was working as a systems analyst, and I wanted to make money so I could support the orphan children in my immediate family in Zimbabwe. The AIDS pandemic wiped out my generation. By the time I was 17, I saw my high school friends dying of AIDS. What's happening right now, this is my second pandemic. My grandmother had 11 children. She had 34 grandchildren. 19 of my first cousins died of HIV-related diseases, including my baby brother. There are 49 orphaned kids on my side of the family alone, and another 40 on my ex-husband's side. So I wrote this book, and I just wanted to make money so I could send money to Zimbabwe to pay for school fees. It costs $5 to send a child to school. 3 months of education, $15 a year. The average person in our community exists on 30 US cents a month. Kids were not going to school. And even to this moment, Ruth can tell you that Zimbabwe is in trouble right now. So for the last 20 years, that's what I did. And I would speak for free to sell the book. Before I knew it, the people who were coming to these events passed my name to event planners. I did not plan to be a speaker. And that's how my speaking career started. I've been to 56 countries. I don't know how many cities in between in the last 20 years. And it has been a fascinating, fascinating career. So I call myself a serial social entrepreneur because I create businesses so I can make a difference to orphan kids all over the world. So wherever I go and speak, I look for orphanages. That's what I do. I then started my own tribe called the Her Story Women's Global Empowerment Conference. And we are a group of women who speak to have a social impact wherever we go. I recruit 100 speakers. It's a 2-day conference, TED Talk style, 15 minutes each. But in every location where we speak, we look for a project focused around women and children, the elderly, the homeless, the disabled, and we make a difference. We raise money. I launched this in July last year. I've had 10 successful events, launched in Las Vegas, had one in Wellington, in Sydney. Beginning of the year, I had 15 events lined up. I did one in Norway, in London, in New York. By March, COVID-19, everybody said, come back to New Zealand. So I had to cancel 15 events for the beginning of this year. I had planned 100 events for 2020. So I had to reinvent myself, and I'm now doing it online. And that's when I started coaching, teaching people how to speak online. My speakers come online, they get mentored, they get coached. And we're going to have our first online summit with 1,000 speakers later in the year. So creating a speaking business and having your own tribe is one of the most effective things that you can do for yourself as a speaker. So I'm going to stop speaking for a minute because I need a bit of a break. Unmute yourselves because we're a small group tonight. I want you each to tell me who your avatar is. Who is your TED Talk for? They say that when you're trying to share an idea, when you're trying to sell a product, there is a 33% rule to anything you'll do in life. 33% of people will love you. They will love everything you do. 33% of people will hate you. They just think what you're doing is nonsense. And 33% of people are just indifferent. They don't give a damn. So who is your avatar? Who is your TED Talk for? Who is going to spread your idea once they hear you speak? Just unmute yourself. We'll start with you, Terry. I just want to see how clear you guys are on who your avatar is.
Can you tell me what the term avatar means in this context?
So an avatar in business is your ideal client.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so for me, my ideal client are women over the age of 50. The reason why I target women over the age of 50 is because they have the stories, they have the time, they have the money, they want to use their voices, and they're reinventing themselves. They're either widowed, they're divorced, they're separated, they're going into retirement, and they are technophobic. So my company helps people with everything. If you hate doing websites, if you hate doing social media, we will take care of you. The reason why Ruth is on this call is because she helps all of my clients with social media. So if you know who your avatar is, when you advertise on Facebook, you're narrowing where you're spending your money. If you throw out an ad to everybody and it's irrelevant to the people you want to work with, you're wasting money on Facebook ads. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, okay. My story is I'm actually a historian. I'd like to combine my personal story with history, because history is probably the greatest teacher that we have. And unfortunately, human beings have never learned from the mistakes of the past, and we seem to be doomed to repeat them.
Yeah.
And and for example, the one region that I've studied intensely is during the First World War and just after, the secret treaties that parceled out the Middle Eastern countries of today, and the problems that we have today between Israel and the Palestinian Arabs, and between the Turks and the Syrians and the Greeks and the Turks. These are problems that go back into, not into antiquity, but they go back at least 100 years, and they still are unresolved. And all we hear from the big powers, talk fest, nothing
changes.
No, nothing.
So do you have a title for this TED Talk yet?
History repeats itself.
Okay, that's a nice one. Really nice. Thank you for sharing, Terry. That's awesome. Who's next? Nairan, do you want to unmute and tell us yours?
Yes, of course. When I started the speech for human rights, I'm asylum seeker, and we don't have any right in Australia. But that I start my speech for human rights, and now nearly 8 years, I go on the stage and I talk about my story. And if you Google my name, you see a lot of picture of me about asylum seeker and the tongue of asylum seeker. I'm fighting for refugees, just to take like one right, that we have right to breathe, we have right to talk. And in this crisis, in this damage, because Australia doesn't give a penny to asylum seeker because they don't have any right. For that, I'm trying my best. All the time I cry for them on the stage. I cry because I'm one of them. I came 1 year of the, suffering in the camp. I'm separating. I'm from Syria. I separated from my boy. All the time I cry. I had that, when I'm talking, I feel that the bitterness in my tongue, because I feel the asylum seeker, we swim to Australia, we fight with shark to Australia, but no one hears us. For that,
Where are you based, Nairan?
I'm from Syria.
And where are you based now?
I'm in Melbourne.
You're in Melbourne as well.
Melbourne. 9 years I'm in Australia, but I don't have any right.
Wow.
I'm working, I get given tax, everything, but we don't have job seek. We don't have, in this crisis, I'm at home, I'm teaching, I'm with education now. I can speak of everything. If you tell me today, speak about education, I'll tell you a lot of it, because I'm working as support worker with autism. I'm working as an educator with the children. I'm working, no right for us. For that, I'm educated and I'm talking about everything when I'm on the stage, but I need way to be the world hear me, not just Australia. That's what I need.
So what is the title of your TED Talk?
The first time I talk about journey of food, my journey with my grandma. This one, my first, you know, in Festival 21. The second one, every time they ask me was how I become a good volunteer in Australia. The third one about asylum seeker, but every 2 weeks I have with, till now, you know, even online, but all free. I don't take money because I'm asylum seeker, you know, I don't take any money. The last one I did it with the Council Refugee Week, that what we need to do to refugee to make them relax in this COVID-19.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
have a powerful message. Thank you. Lauren, unmute. Tell us your story.
Alrighty, so my avatar or my ideal client, as the case may be, would be ideally the divine feminine. I would love for children to know, especially little girls, to know that they have this divine feminine inside of them, and it's totally okay to have that. And so I'd love for that, but I also know that they're probably not going to be the ones listening to a TED Talk.
No, unless you do it in the school.
Unless I do it in schools, correct.
Yeah.
But the so as far as thinking about who would possibly be watching in a TED Talk, I'm looking at probably women in their late 20s. Maybe they've already been through one marriage and they've been through the ringer with their families and the narcissistic side of relationships and stuff like that, and they're starting to question, you know, is this all there is? Is this all that life is holding for me? Like, surely things have to be better than that. And they're starting to ask those questions about who they are and really sloughing off of those old patriarchal opinions and decisions and cloaks that have been placed upon them from a very young age, and they're starting to push out of that.
Out. Okay. So a potential title would be what?
So that would be the divine feminine and the narcissistic fire.
Okay. All right, cool. You're pretty clear there. Thank you for sharing. Philippa, who's your avatar?
Ooh, I've got so many thoughts going on in my head. I think this is one of my biggest challenges because I work in many areas and therefore I'm pulled in different places. But one of my audiences, I think, is women. Yeah. Okay, let me tell you what the way I think about story. I use story in different ways. I use story as a leadership practice. I use story as a healing methodology. So when I'm thinking of women, for example, I believe that self-knowledge and getting back to your story and sharing stories and holding a space for people to share stories is very centering and grounding. It's a breathing space. And I think a lot of what life asks us to do is to be out there in the world doing. And we never take time to refill the well. And so using stories as a place to go back to refuel, because stories make us well. And if you tell a story well, people listen and it creates a community around you. And there's a well of stories that needs to be told. So that's one of the things that I'm thinking of. The other area is, I think it's linked to the whole Black Lives Matter movement, but looking at it from an African perspective and saying our histories have been told by people who are not us. They always say that when the lion can tell its stories, the stories will be different because the stories are often told from the perspective of the hunter.
That's a good TED Talk title, by the way. That quote is an excellent TED Talk title.
Yes, so flipping that, because I know when I wrote my book, which was a memoir, but it was about growing up in Uganda in the 60s and 70s and then becoming a migrant. A lot of the young people have come to me and said to me, now I understand why things are like this in our country, or I understand why our parents say we don't talk about these things, or now I can begin to have a conversation with my parents about why we have a president who's been there for the last 30 odd years. It's given me a way in. And then my generation has said, oh, you reminded us of these things. And they start talking about it. So I don't yet have titles, but I know the places where I want to play and what I want to need and what I think is the value of what I do. I need
what
to
I suggest you do, because you have a lot of places where you can position yourself.
Yeah.
Start with the one that gives you the most energy.
Okay.
And focus on that. And then you can develop another presentation for the other angles as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll think about that, because I have a book, do I take something from my book Flame and Song and link it to getting to know your history, because Black Lives Matter and all of that in this particular moment in history is important.
It's very topical. Yeah. And that's the other thing about tying your presentation and what's current, what's going on in the world right now. Perfect. Yeah. Ruth, do you want to share? Because I know you're preparing. I have an opportunity for all of you guys. There is an event happening online on the 1st to the 7th of August. It's called The Best You. It's an LA event. And they have given me some slots to bring some speakers on board. We will talk TED Talk style for 15 minutes. It has an audience of 40,000 people. So it's based in LA. They have people like Les Brown and Jack Canfield as speakers. If any of you are interested, just put in the chat and I can send you some information. Ruth, because that's another good practice for you.
Okay, so my talk is around women. Entitled it I Am Woman, because I also have a show on the same title, an online show, I Am Woman. And I'm still trying to pick out from my life story what area I'm going to focus on, but I'm Woman is a platform, or it's a story about sharing how as women there's an underlying link despite color, creed, or nationality. There is a common thread that connects us as women. And how do we then as women come together and work together so that I don't make the same mistakes that my sister has made, that Gertrude has made? I can learn from her experiences and move forward. I don't have to go through the same pain. So using sharing our stories and experiences so that at least you know how not to go through that same kind of pain. Yeah, so it's around that.
Okay, very nice.
Idea.
Yeah, so you're preparing for your presentation.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be on that platform together. Awesome. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about how to deliver your presentations. I'll share my screen again. I was at an event in Mexico once, and I finished speaking, but while I was speaking, something happened. A few things happened at this event. There were 3,000 people there, and Spanish phonetically sounds like my mother tongue. It sounds like Shona. And my friend translated the first paragraph of my speech into Spanish. I read it, practiced it. From the airport to the venue, she corrected a few things, and I got up on stage and started speaking in Spanish. And then the data point, my PowerPoint refused to work. So the technology failed. And I had this crutch, which was my PowerPoint presentation. Always be prepared that things can go wrong. TED is now trying to encourage people not to speak to slides. So if you can present without slides, you're going to be effective. Or if you do have slides, rather have the slides as pictures so they can guide you through the story, not words, because words are too distracting. Anyway, I finished doing this speech and something took over. I remember closing my eyes and thinking, oh gosh, there goes my speech. And then I asked for guidance and I said, how do I do this? And the guidance that came in my head was take off your shoes. I took off my shoes just to ground myself. And that's when the magic happened. I delivered one of the best speeches I have ever given. I had practiced enough to know the essence of the speech. But in that state, something takes over. I could not string together those words if I wrote it down and prepared. So speaking from the heart, when I finished speaking, people came to buy my book, and there's a man who came and he was so moved. He said, "Do you mind if I hug you?" And he wrapped his arms around me and he hugged me. And I zapped him. There was an electrical charge between me and him. He was a very hairy guy. The hair on his arms was standing this high. His chest hair was standing like this. It was so creepy. And he said to me, "Gertrude, do you realize that you channel when you speak?" I'm like, "Oh, no, I don't do that." He's like, you are channeling knowledge. He said, "Go onto the HeartMath Foundation, the HeartMath Institute, and learn about how you're using your heart." Now, the human heart has got a magnetic field that spans the length of your arms. We are giving out this energy. The minute you walk into a room, you know how sometimes you can meet somebody and you just get this weird vibe about them? We're pulsating this energy all the time. And when you know how to use it, especially if you are one of those people who communicates an emotional message like Nyren, you can move your audience. I can now see the ripple effect of the wave going into the audience when I speak. I can visibly see it. I can see the light bulbs going on in people's minds. So please study. Go onto the HeartMath Foundation. They have a lot of videos. They have a lot of information on how to use your heart to speak. And that's what my coaching program is about. It's called Speaking from the Heart. The human heart is an amazing instrument that every speaker needs to know how to use. So the program that I offer helps you look for events, look for opportunities. I show you how to pitch yourself as a speaker, how to gain the credibility, like I said, online and offline, how to advertise, market, promote yourself, and create your own events. But my biggest passion is people who want to lead their own tribes, who want to share a vision of what the world could be if they had a group of people coming behind them. I show you how to pitch yourself to TED, how to impress the TED speakers, and really get into the heads of the organizers and how to research what exactly they're looking for. The other mistake that people make is they get trained technically to speak, but there is no emotional perfection. So you can go to Toastmasters, you can go to all of these speaking clubs, but unless you are speaking from here, you'll be in your head as you're speaking. You're trying to remember that thing that you learned to say. Yet if you rehearse it, practice it, embody the speech, and go up on stage without the aids, then you're speaking from your heart. That disconnect disappears. So please try it. It's a powerful, powerful way of communicating. So my speaking is tailored for everybody's individual needs. So you can see in this conversation we've been having, I'm trying to really get to know each of you, and we're really lucky that we're a small group. There's not too many people. I want you to just go online so I can have a little bit of a break, and we can all have a bit of a break, and we'll come back for another 30 minutes. But Ruth, can you share the feedback form so everybody can just jump on there and give us a bit of feedback? We're going to take a 5-minute break. It's a little form that you fill in, just tick, 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 give me some feedback, and we'll come back and just tie everything up before you guys leave tonight. I'll be back in a minute. And do connect, talk if you want to, if you're going to stay online. Just unmute yourselves and have a conversation for 5 minutes.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hi. How is go? You love it? I'm so interested. It's beautiful.
Yeah. It is. And It's lovely to meet all of you. Yeah, and Nairan, it's just nice to hear your story. Is it Nairan?
Nairan, yes.
Nairan,
You know,
yes.
I'm so like passionate, especially in this crisis, because the last speech I did the 25th of March, and that's it in Melbourne. We shut down, and you know, we were in the inside. We don't go anymore, but I miss it. Really, I miss it. And online, I cannot do it because we don't have anything like this in Melbourne. I didn't have any online. I just did a speech on radio and like Facebook and radio, like in this crisis. But I love to continue. I love it.
Yeah. Mm.
I love it to like, you know, because we have guideline and we should to continue to do our speech. We don't stop. So that I'm so happy when she like sent me on Facebook. I thought, oh, wow, I love it.
I'd like to share an interesting story with you.
Yes,
Back
please.
in May 2015, I went to a academic conference in New York.
Yeah.
And from the hotel, I took my little USB stick so I could do a PowerPoint presentation. So I asked one guy, can I just check? I forgot to take my computer. So I plugged in the USB. Was the wrong speech I took. Oh my God, I had about 3 or 4 hours. I took the first, I think that was it. So I said, just give me a piece of paper, just wrote it down and spoke off the cuff. And, you know, and they just marveled that I could just rattle off all these dates and interaction of events and all
Wow.
that. You know, it was just like that. All we had was 20 minutes. I did it in 19.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
So your story has become part of you. You didn't have to go because
Yeah.
you know, when you, especially Terry, for you, the dates, the places in your presentation, but that just came on its own.
Well, actually now, instead of researching, I'm still researching, of course, diplomatic and political history, but now I'm using that period of the late Ottoman Empire, moving real events, but using fictional characters now.
Okay.
So in the last 12 months, I've written about 40 pieces, short stories, about 1,000 words, because they get published in a Greek American paper in New York. I've written close to maybe 40,000 plus words from these stories.
That's
So, you know,
good.
so I feel very happy about it.
How I start to write my book? Tell me.
You just need to sit down and just write.
Yeah.
Because I tried to write it in my language, but in English, I need a bit help, you know, because if I want the audience to love my story and, you know, because I was thinking about cooking, you know, story of my grandma recipe, but it doesn't work with me because I have all the recipe in my brain. I want someone to write it in as a recipe, not as a just book. So that combining the story and cooking, you know, it's a bit harder.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, Naira, as a multilingual speaker, one of the things that, and as when I worked in Namibia with students, I often say, if it is easier for you to do the first writing in your home language, because the essence, the heart, the real story will come out because it comes from that place where you know so deeply. To write it in Arabic. And once you've written it in Arabic, there is already a whole audience. I mean, there's a whole population who speak Arabic, so you already have an audience. But then you can get someone who is a good translator, who it's not about translating word for word, but translating the essence of it into English. And then you have, because if you start trying to do it in English first, it won't come out as beautifully as if it came out in the language that you're comfortable with.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. I want to cry. Thank you.
Good advice, Philippa. That is excellent.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, writing of books. I take people's books to the Frankfurt Book Fair every year. This is something else about being an author. You can write a book in your language and get it translated in multiple languages. You get paid an average of 5 to 35,000 euro per language. If the foreign language buyers like the work, but you have to create what's called your author's platform. They have to see that people are consuming your content. They have to see who's following you on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. So social media, creates the platform that you can sell your book in other languages in Frankfurt. So you can write in Arabic and they will pay for the translation.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll start today. Thank you for this idea.
Okay.
No,
All
actually,
right. So
just-
say that.
Just for anyone who wishes to publish a book, I would also recommend it's a crowdfunding. It's a very good way of get people to pay your book up front, so you can save some money yourself.
You know, my student with cooking, if you go to my Instagram, nearly 14,000 people, I teach cooking in school, in university, in like a private, like for wedding, for engagement. I do cooking classes to let the people know my culture and do food. All of them, they told me, we're waiting for your book. So that's, you know, but I couldn't do it because I don't have the money. That's the problem. And the problem that I'm asylum seeker, you know, the government and the publisher, they don't trust that if you write the book and they return you to your country, what we do with these books. For that, I'm struggling with that.
No. We'll talk about that. That's part of some of the stuff that I offer. I show people how to self-publish. So what I'm offering you guys tonight is I have a speaking program. It's a video course that is self-paced. I have a program called How to Write a Book in 40 Hours.
Wow.
So I don't write books, I speak them. If I try to sit down and think and write, there's a disconnect that happens between my head and my hand. So I look at the structure. If I'm going to write a story of my grandmother, where were we? What did we do? I just bullet point it, and then I record myself speaking, and I transcribe the audio. So you can get a book out of your head in like 10 hours. I've done it. I've written several books this way. So make it easy for yourself. If you're a storyteller and you can tell the story orally, it's a powerful way to get the content out of your head. I also have a program where I help change makers create their own platforms. So that feedback form, there's 3 streams. And in the middle one, I coach you in a group of 10. The first one is self-paced. You do it on your own. The second one, you're learning how to speak and how to write your book and how to publish. And I coach you in a group of 10. And my last package is now for people who want to create a business. And they really want to know, how can I take myself from where I am and turn this into a profitable income so I can change careers. And that's why I asked you to fill out that feedback form so you can get to know what exactly I do. So I want to just end with a few more little things that you need to know about pitching your TED talk. There's a few things I want to summarize with lessons that I've learned throughout my life. When you put in your TED application, make sure that you get family, get friends to pitch for you. So when you nominate yourself, tell your family and friends, I want to do a TED talk in this city, in this place, and get them to go in and submit nominations on your behalf. Because that really, if people can see that there's 100 people who've said, we love this woman, we love what she does, you've already got a following, Nadia, so it will be really easy for you to get on a TED platform. So use your community, use your family, use people around you to pitch you as well. So it's not just you. The other thing is, in the world of speaking, I've already talked about not trying to reinvent the wheel. I've already talked about volunteering so you can practice. I've talked about diversifying your content and modeling on greatness. Look at those TED Talks that are getting lots of views, see what they've done, see how they've done it. Imagine if you mastered some of these skills, where you would be 3 years from now. We would have a completely different conversation in terms of you as a speaker and literally taking it to the next level. And the importance of getting a coach is, I will show you your blind spots. You know what you know. I think you might have noticed that I asked you guys to ask me questions. Did any of you fill out the questionnaire before the event? The reason why I do that is because I'm tuning into what my audience needs. I try and incorporate the questions people ask into the presentation. So Ruth has been on this presentation every single time I've done it. It's never the same. The essence of my webinar is the same, but I try and incorporate the questions people are asking, because the problem is, if you are an expert in your subject, you know what you know, but you don't know what your audience needs to know. So it's like going to market first and finding out what they need and then developing the content afterwards. You can do this with a book. The way I developed How to Write a Book in 40 Hours, I work as a change agent in organizations. So ANZ Bank and National Bank merged in New Zealand a few years ago, and they were having problems with staff morale. And they called me in. I've got a degree in industrial psychology and management. And they said, Gertrude, we have 650 people in a building who are not getting out. We need you to come and help shift the staff morale. So everything I do is around storytelling. I went into this bank, and they would bring people into this bank 100, 120 at a time. I did the same presentation 6 times that day. But as people sat down, I asked them to write down anything that came up as I spoke on a feedback form, or if they had any questions, if something really resonated, just to make a note of it and not to wait until the end. Now, you remember when we started talking, I asked you guys to do the same thing. It's because when you're presenting, there's so much going on, people, they lose their thoughts. What happened is I wanted to write a book called It's Not About What Happens That Matters. And that was the title of my presentation. And I'd gone for a photo shoot. I had a beautiful white caftan on. I slapped this title on a photo and said, today's presentation is based on a book that I want to write. Would you like a copy? It's $35. I pre-sold, like Terry was saying, 485 copies of a book that did not exist. People came and paid for the book. So I had to develop a way to write the book really fast. Got home, got my assistant to type up all the questions into an Excel spreadsheet, and those became the chapters of the book. I got out my dictaphone, I recorded myself answering the questions. The first draft of the book came out of my head in 10 hours. Then I went back and started rewriting it, massaging it, got in my editors, and in 40 hours I had that book on Amazon and Kindle. So writing doesn't have to be hard. Your job is to tell the story. Your editors come in and help you perfect it and refine it. A lot of people then get stuck that they think their grammar is wrong. You are a storyteller. Do what you do best. Let the editors do their jobs to clean it up. The other thing about preparing your TED Talk, and this is going to be the last thing I will share, is right now we've been talking. You guys have had to be silent. We're on this online call. If we were in a physical space, this experience would be completely different. Because when you're speaking in a physical space, there's reactions, there's laughter. So when you're planning your speech, plan to do a speech for 12 minutes or 15 minutes if you want to hit 18. Because there's going to be pauses, there's going to be laughter, there's going to be reaction. And a lot of speakers don't factor in the reaction time, and then they don't finish their speech. They don't have that resolution, the call to action at the end. So remember that TED's presentations have to be 18 minutes. If you exceed 18 minutes, they do not see the light of day. You do not get onto the TED website. So that's something else to be aware of, so that you don't miss out on your TED opportunity, not really knowing what you're doing. Make sure that you stay within the limits, because that timing is very deliberate. The last thing I want to share with you is things that you can put in your presentation that can create sales for you. So I was coached by Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield, the guys who wrote Chicken Soup of the Soul. I started researching who are the best self-published authors in the world. I wanted to learn from them. I wanted to see how they sold 500 million copies of a book. And Mark Victor Hansen put a line in my speech that quadrupled my sales. He said, Gertrude, people need permission to buy multiple copies of your book. If you say, I'll be at the back of the room selling my books, please buy a copy, they'll buy one copy. And the line he put in my speech at the end was, Buy one for yourself, buy one for someone you love, buy one for someone who needs inspiring. I get people at conferences buying 10, 15 copies of my book. They start thinking of family, they start thinking of friends, they start thinking of colleagues. I spoke at a Rotary conference in the South Island. There's a small town called Timaru, tiny place. They had about 150 people at this conference. And I remembered this line and I thought, what if I asked them to buy a box of books instead of 1 or 2 copies? And I knew they had come from different Rotary clubs from all over New Zealand. And I suggested, I'm going to suggest that you guys buy a box of my books. There's 28 books at $35. It's $980 a box. 17 boxes were sold. I made $17,000 at that conference. So speaking, there is a way of selling who you are, selling your books, selling your ideas. You don't sell at the end. Your sales pitch is in the speech itself. So throughout this presentation, I've been asking you questions. I've been getting you to participate. You're engaged with what I teach. I've told you several times that I help people to go from A to Z. A lot of people wait until the end, and then it feels uncomfortable. If you are there to try and generate money through your book sales, be honest about it up front. And that's what I'll leave you with tonight. We have 8 minutes before our 90 minutes is up. And yeah, let's just catch up and talk, and you can let me know what you have got out of today. And hopefully it's going to help you really craft that winning TED Talk going forwards.
Gertrude, may I say something?
Yes,
I'd
sure.
just like to say thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to come along on this amazing journey. It's something that's been developing over the year. When I was invited to be a part of an online group called I think it's now called Earth Elders and Galactic Fire Group, where I ended up doing 2 talks through that group. And the group is now at 50,000 members.
Oh, wow.
So, and when I did my talk, the first one was sitting about 25 and the second was about 35,000 people. So that was pretty like, whoa. So I've already got a sense of, and each of those talks was completely different.
Right.
But it helped me to, when you ask those questions in your original thing of like, what is your thing? I was like, well, actually, I kind of already know because I've kind of already done it.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for that re-acknowledgement of what I've already done. And there was 2 other things that I wanted to say. One thing was to Nairan. There's a beautiful story that I read many years ago. I have a copy of it. It's called Tatiana's Table. And it is very similar to the story of what you were saying of you wish to incorporate your journey with recipes. And she was exactly the same as you in the story of how all of her recipes were in her head.
Can you type that title in the chat for her?
For sure. And I have actually used one of her recipes in my YouTube channel as a way to inspire people to cook some more and to start diving into the creativity of, you know, being able to be home and move away from boxed stuff and fast food and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Fantastic.
And the second thing was that when you, and I love what you said, Gertrude, about speaking and transcribing, these cool things like when I'm doing a text message now, I can do to speech. So I can put the little speechy button, like the microphone button on, and it'll like text exactly as I'm talking. Yeah. And what I wish to say, Nairan, is the way you speak English is uniquely you.
Thank you.
And if you were to put your story in how I speak or Gertrude speaks,
it wouldn't be the same.
It wouldn't be you anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
yeah, carry on.
Yeah, I'd just like to say something very quickly. As a person of Greek background, we have particular events in our community where I've been invited in the past, and I used to give free lectures. But I came to a stage where I've got a vast amount of knowledge. I've spent a lot of money buying documents and all that, and it was time to monetize. So when I was invited some years ago to give a speech, I said, well, I charge a fee. Well, I've never been approached ever again. So as far as I'm concerned, they're not prepared to pay. They can go and jump in the lake.
You have to value yourself. I'm so glad you brought that up. A lot of times we give, and we don't actually value ourselves. I gave a speech in Florida. These people found me online. Billionaire family. I didn't know who they were because I don't know anything about American football, but there's a football team called the Steelers in Florida, in Pittsburgh, sorry. And so I called my dad and I said, Dad, I have this opportunity to speak. I don't know how much to charge. And my father said, close your eyes, think of a number, just ask for anything, ask for what you want. He said, the fact that they called you from the United States means you've impressed somebody online. Just think of a number. So I wrote back to this lady and I said $15,000 an hour. 2 days later, she said, fantastic, send us your contract. Now I'm celebrating $15,000 an hour, right? I send them my contract. When I get booked to speak, I get 50% with the booking, 50% when I've done the job. 3 days later, there's $15,000 in my bank account. And I'm thinking they've made a mistake. So I called her and said, it looks like you've paid me in full. She said, no, we paid 7.5. I meant New Zealand dollars. And at that point, the US to the New Zealand was 1 to 2. I made $30,000 in an hour. However, the lesson with that is I left $10,000 on the table. In talking to the organizer, she said, Gertrude, we had a budget for 25,000 US for a 1-hour keynote. So now what I do, if I'm invited to speak, I do not say my speaking fee. I ask them what's
your price? Yeah.
Your budget. Yeah.
I do it with my catering. I tell you, what's your budget?
Ourselves because we don't know our value. And I'm really glad you brought that up, Terry.
Well, yeah. You know, I write history pieces, whether they're fictional or non-fiction for a Greek American paper in New York. When they publish, I invoice them and they pay me. Here in Australia, the main Greek newspapers, we love your work, but they want it for free. I'm sorry. You know, if you're not prepared, go and jump in the lake. I've even been criticised from my own community on Facebook. How dare you? Who do you think you are to ask money? You know, our poor Greek organisations and all that, they're owned by the little butcher shop. These Greek organisations have millions of dollars in the bank, in assets and in bank accounts, and they can't afford to pay, my fee. Look, I tell you, my fee is, because I'm still unknown, I charge, say, $1,000. That's not unreasonable.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. I'm getting anywhere from €2,500 to €7,500 sitting here in my lounge in New Zealand. So it's not.
I'm volunteer with the SBS 3 years now because I don't have any document. They told me just volunteer. If you search SBS Arabic, 3 years I'm doing, writing in the magazine, doing volunteering speech, all Australia hear me. And I'm so famous, but without name, without any name because I'm asylum seeker.
Yeah, it will change.
Yeah, we wish.
But it's practice. It's practice.
Yeah.
So keep doing it. Michelle, what is your last take homes? You've been very quiet.
I know, I've been listening to all of you guys. So I kind of have a real passion for women, especially as they grow older. Like I work with clients in the counseling field, and I am a Reiki practitioner and studying to be a hypnotist this weekend.
Oh.
And so, I came from New Zealand. I have Maori background and sort of not a privileged upbringing. I had some trauma and that sort of thing. And then the more that I go, the more I find that women give so much of themselves to other people that they tend to start to lose their purpose.
Yeah.
And in amongst a lot of depression and stuff that I went through, I actually found what I was meant to do, quit a job that I was at for 16 years created my own writing business.
Oh, there you
And
go.
I've just actually done a memoir, and sort of like, you know, just to show people that, you know, you can find that purpose that's within you. And writing is so, I don't know, like it's just imperative to people when it comes to suffering. Like I actually get people to journal and, you know, to work through a lot of grief and that sort of thing. So that's kind of me.
Wow. So what is your idea worth spreading? I didn't quite get the essence.
So I think it's about, you know, like that writing your story and sharing your story can be something that can help others that are going through stuff. Like I kind of interview women who have gone through stuff, and I'm writing their stories, and through sharing stories of different cultures and different pains and things like that, it kind of helps to bring it onto a platform where everybody can sort of use that.
Yeah. And that common thread that Ruth was talking about earlier, that we have common experiences.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter about you know, the culture and the religion and all of those sorts of things. You know, we're women and we all experience the same thing, you know, and sort of, I don't know where I'm going with that, but it's probably a bit late. I've been working all day, and you know, but that's kind of my passion. And so I write, and I get my clients to write, and we kind of like enmesh these things and grow and learn to, you know, rise above those circumstances.
So what would be your idea worth spreading? What do you have a title?
I sort of thought about like, is writing the conduit that leads to alleviating suffering in the human condition, something like that.
Okay. So you have to
Because
make I like the essence of that.
Because storytelling has been something that's been around for thousands of years.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of writing onto the paper kind of gives you that voice, no matter what language you speak.
Yeah, I like that. Fantastic.
Michelle?
Well, thank you so much, everybody. This has been an interesting evening. I'm glad it was a nice small group, because we really got to kind of know each other and connect. Do fill out my feedback form so I can see where you're at, what help you need. And let's stay connected. I'm going to be creating a Facebook group so that if you have been practicing a speech and you want to get some feedback from everybody, you can post it in the group and we can all support you along this journey. And if I hear of any speaking opportunities as well, I'll be sharing them within that group. But this thing on the 1st and the 7th, I'm still looking for another 15 speakers. So if anybody's keen, you do have to pay to be on the platform, but I think it'll be worthwhile. So just let me know as well. So have a fantastic evening. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you all.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I
you.
would love to see how I can
Thank
help
you.
take your speech
Thank
to
you
the
so
next
much,
step.
Katie.
Thank
For
you.
For your
We enjoy
generosity
it.
also.
Thank you so much. We enjoy it.
And Michelle, if you come back home, you need to come back. This is the
I
best
know.
place in the world.
I know. I've got so many other things I want to ask you about, so I'll send you a message or something.
Well, stay on the call if you like.
Yeah, like I have some other stuff I want to sort of maybe see what you think.
All right, we can continue this conversation.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody else.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
the opportunity, Gertrude. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Terry. Wonderful having you on the call. And now that we need to talk,
everybody.
I want to see how
Bye.
we support you.
Ka kite ano.
Ka kite anō.
Bye.
Yes.
So, bye, Naren. I will contact you and we'll schedule a call. I want to
Yes.
see how I can support you from here, okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Through my publishing company, we can get your book out.
Thank you so much, because I couldn't find anyone here to help me with this.
No,
I
can
contact a lot of publisher, but they told me we cannot trust that you are staying here. Even I'm collecting money to write something in my language. They don't know it should just English, and you should too, like, develop it. We cannot develop for you.
Can you receive money from someone outside the country?
No, no, no. I had like my business and I'm educator. I do teaching, but now everything we are 6 weeks at home, nothing, for that for the money I'm struggling because I have three boys overseas. One we came here by boat, my husband, my daughter, and me. My story on if you just search my name, you see my story there. My 3 boys overseas for that everything I work, I half it to send them to the boys
Yeah,
and they
so
are alone now.
what I'm saying is if we were to publish your book for you,
Yeah.
sales came in and we sent the money to your family, would that be of help to you?
Yes. For that, I'm trying my best. This week I told my daughter, just prepare yourself. She's 14. I have chicken outside. Please put table and I'll cook. I'll do some, cooking online to like attract some people because I have a student. They ask me for making dough, making bread for free. Just to like, because my busy mind as a mom all the time. I'm so happy I met you. Because something that shine in my this day dark days, something light come. And I love speech, I love telling story, I love cooking, I'm a person that I'm happy and I'm showing with my talking. Everyone tell you, you're not happy. I'm a happy person. And it's showing even I'm asylum here, I'm suffering, but thank God I'm have this, I have that brightness in my heart all the time. When I'm talking to everyone, what happened for that? Thank you for your time. I don't want to disturb you more than this, but thank you so much.
I will email you. I'll email you. Let's connect.
I'll start from today to write it in Arabic and I'll try, to do it in English also, but I'm promising today, like it's something happened and, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wish you the best. And everyone be safe, please. Be safe.
You too.
We will. And Philippa, we need to connect so we can get you going with your speech tomorrow, okay?
Yes. I just wanted to say thank you because I never said thank you. Everybody else said what they got out of it. And I think for me, the push is, I've often thought these things happen organically, but the push to really, and Faye's been doing this, my daughter, to me. What's your audience? Who's your audience, Mommy? I said, my audience happens organically. And she said, no. So, and she's been saying, what's your online presence? We need to think about how you do a lot of things, but some of them are so random. They're so random, Mommy. Just focus, so it's just good to be hearing this noise in both my ears from both. You're very similar. So I need to just walk away from you and breathe a bit and then pull myself back to myself. But thank you.
All right. I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Love you.
Love you too.
Oh, Philippa was like a sister to me when I lived in Cape Town. We go way back.
She looks it.
We go way back. She comes from Uganda. I come from Zimbabwe, but her husband was a doctor. My husband was a doctor when we lived in South Africa. We hung out and we've just recently reconnected. So it's really good to see her.
That's beautiful.
So tell me about you, sister, my Kiwi sister. This is nice.
Oh, I'm sort of, this is something that I think would be awesome because it would give me a bit more of a platform, because I'll tell you what happened. I had this thing happen to me. Like, did you say you did like philosophy or something?
Yeah.
So you believe in something?
Yeah. So Ubuntu is such a hard concept to explain. It's almost like a religion.
Yeah.
When I say it's a way of life, until I started translating what it means in the Western world, because I grew up in it.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but I see it now from a distance and I really understand it. I'm actually starting a podcast with my daughter called Lost in Translation.
Yeah.
It's woven into the language, it's woven into the culture. It embodies our concept of humanity. So I'm not a philosopher, but I'm coming out that way. And all of this knowing, I guess it's in my DNA. A lot of the stuff that I find myself explaining, I'm like, where the hell did that come from? It's quite scary sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm loving the space I'm in right now. I am just loving and embracing every moment.
Yeah, because I don't know, like, you know, like growing up in my culture, like we have this, you know, this belief in, you know, this God or whatever is out there sort of thing.
Yes.
And I went through this dark time and I actually had a visitation. I experienced something. You have to have a look at the book that's on my website and you'll get an idea. So I had this thing happen to me that changed my life, and I started searching, and I thought I was meant to be a nun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so anyway, so I struggled with this thing, and then I had a dream and I was going to go to France, and I went to France and I did this work. Then I had this sort of like, you know,